All right, hello everyone. Welcome to OGHQ. Kind of holding my camera here on the seat. I'm gonna hand hold this for you. I'm here by myself. My camera crew's not here. It's later in the evening, so I wanted to capture this. I don't want to wait. I want to do it. So I'm gonna hand hold this on my R5, my Canon R5, and show you this process that I'm doing for the leather repair. This is actual leather restoration work that I learned from my friends at Colourlock, and I went back and refreshed and watched some videos on how to do this. And I've got one spot that looks pretty darn good, and so now I'm going to try to tackle the harder spots. So I cheated a little bit, and off camera I tested my skill set, and I did a couple of things right, a couple of things wrong, but it's looking really good. So if you're not familiar, this is my 997 GT3 RS 2011 3.8 liter. I've been doing a sort of mini restoration to it. Cup 2s, RE MTSP, BBS wheels, new calipers, front and rear, adjusting, fixing the suspension. There's some goofy stuff. Did full dry ice restoration to the bottom and underside of the car, wheel wells, all of that. Replaced all the plastics, polished and coated the car. Entire car is covered in PPF. New front lip, all kinds of new stuff in the interior. And one of the last two projects I have to work on here, outside of installing the Dundon exhaust, which is coming, was to swap the cage. So I pulled the yellow cage out here today, and I got a matte black one, but there's a Bose version and a non-Bose, and my friends at Titan sent me the Bose version, which I don't have, so it doesn't work. So we have to get a new center bar for it. But like restoring the seat belts, the door pulls, all the Alcantara has been cleaned and deep cleaned and sanded. You know, fixing all the kick marks on the bottom of the door, repairing the leather inside, getting the seats all dialed in, putting all kinds of new trim pieces, new shift knob, new buttons, new glove box, latch, just all kinds of parts and pieces to bring it back. It has about 30,000 miles on it. And you can see this is the passenger seat, which is darn near perfection. I did a full cleanup on this doing the Colourlock system of strong cleaner, their brush. I took the Alcantara apart. I ordered some new Ed guards from my friend Ed, who makes these things, and to protect the bolster. But you can see everything in this seat is darn near perfect. But the driver's seat gets quite a bit more use, so the driver's seat has been beat up quite a bit. So there are two major spots that I want to repair. So let me show you that. So there's a spot here which is starting to flake, and so I'm gonna do something I've never done before and attempt to do a full sort of restoration to this. I'm gonna tape this off and attempt to eliminate the chance of dyeing the silver stitching. You can see here, I don't know how it's showing up on camera, but I repaired this spot. So this spot looked very similar to that. It must have been from the helmet or the Hans device, or maybe the straps or something. And so there's a little bit of shine, but I think I did a really good job here. Looking at it in person, you know, you can't. So if you look at it from this angle, I mean, you can tell that I've done a repair, but it's darn good looking, man. It looks pretty darn very acceptable to me. So here's what I normally would do. I just buy a new leather skin. The problem is these have the Porsche crest, and they didn't come in Porsche crest. That was like a special option, and so to replace this upper section of the seat is not practical, because I'm doing a raffle on this car in June, and so my ownership is like 7 months, and so I didn't have enough time to order a custom version of this. Hence me looking to repair it. So I've been taught how to do this before, but I haven't actually done it. I've watched it and watched many videos on it. Watched Lars, who's the owner of Colourlock in Germany, has come and visited, showed me how to do this kind of stuff, but I haven't actually done it myself. So I'm going to take you through what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it, and we'll see how acceptable it is. And what I may end up doing, if I screw this up, is I'll just order a new cover, and then when we do the giveaway, I'll just, give it to the next owner. But man, I'm really pleased with how the top came out here. It's got a little different sheen to it based on you can see it on the camera, but in person, I'm telling you, the shine is equal. So I didn't touch any of this, so this is all equal. There's just a little bit of, I had to do some filling and stuff here, but it looks really, I'm telling you, it looks really, really good. You know, once we get the seat installed at the proper angle, you can't see it. It looks like, unless you knew what to look for. I had a couple of guys come and see if they could see it, and you know, it's harder to see, because this would be very similar to the shadowing. Actually, the shadowing would be much worse in the car than it is here, but it looks repaired. And so I want to do the same thing to this. All right, so step one is to sand it. I know this is going to freak you out, but you got to sand it flat. We got to get this gunk, I got to get this stuff out of the way here. So we do need to do a little bit of abrasion to the surface around here, and this should be okay on the stitching. It was okay up top on the stitching, so it should be okay here. So we're going to sand this area, which is going to get rid of some of the flakiness here. Just need to be careful around the stitching. You know, we're not looking to destroy anything here. We're just looking to remove any high spots in the leather. Prepare it to accept the product we're about to put on it. And I'm really torn here. I think I need to fill this a little bit because it's about ready to rip through. And so that's where the leather fluid comes in. But let's see if we can make it look good. Okay. So I scuffed this all up. So now the next step is to grab a paper towel here, and I'm going to degrease it. So we're going to use this degreaser formula to remove anything that may be on here. The thing I had put on here was leather protection cream and leather shield, which we're going to put on after we're done. But we do need to degrease it. So I'm going to take a little bit here, put it on here. Don't need a ton. And we're going to wipe the area to get all the anything that might hurt our adhering of our dye that we're going to be working on here. So you can see there's a little bit of a hole developing. This is the Milwaukee. Not a great heat gun for like big jobs. For something like this, it's great to have just a battery powered, really simple device. Stitching's pretty, not beat up, but you do want to be careful when you're standing near the stitching. You can mess it up. Okay, so fluid leather, spatula, and what I'm going to do is tape off the stitching. So I need to tape this off. I don't think I'm going to fill this spot here. I think our leather fresh, which will be the dye that we put on the end, I think that'll take care of that part. Alright, so we're taped off right at the edge of the stitching. So that way I can get the dye and stuff where I need to get to. Okay, so let's fill this in now. Alright, so you can see I put a little bit of the leather shield on there, like this. And I'm going to work it in with my spatula. So that was actually pretty good. See how it's kind of like filling a drywall hole? All I did was take the spatula and just use a little bit of pressure to push it over, and then it's filled in the holes, and then I took my finger and I just kind of wiped the edge. And so now we need this to dry, so I'm going to use the heat gun to dry that off. Man, I think this is going to turn out great. And then we'll put the leather, the dye on it. I'm kind of building layers here to try to get it to flatten out, to get rid of like the pittiness of it. So I think I'm gonna let that dry overnight. So I think I'm gonna take this section here. It's a little gummy. It doesn't seem to love the heat gun as much as the Shield does, or the Leather Fresh does. So I'm gonna let that sit, let it set up, and then I'll take my GLD pen. It's just a little bit pumpy right here. I kind of need to fill in a little bit more. I want this to be flat. Maybe I don't need to let it sit. I mean, it's pretty dry. I'm like having a hard time figuring out how to fill this little bumpiness. So I wondered if I needed to sand it down more. Yeah, I don't know about that. See, it's a little bit more bubbles than I would like it to have. Stuff is pretty cool though. Oh, yeah, I'm getting it. So I sanded it down. So I sanded it, and then I did another layer and dried that. It's looking good. I'm gonna sand that again. And it's kind of knocking down the peaks of the crumblies, if you will. This is gonna work. I can tell. Yeah, I found that this isn't what you're supposed to do. So I used the GLD, and then, which is a solvent that kind of gums it up and removes, makes it look less shiny. And then, again, you're not supposed to do this, I don't think. But then I took my sanding pad and I dried it when it's kind of gummy, and just kind of re-scuffed it. And that got rid of a lot of like the straight line spatula looking movements. And so now it's a little gummy, a little tacky. And I did the same thing up here. And then I think on this tacky spot, so that got rid of some of the little peaks and valleys and makes it look flatter. And so now I think I'll do my Leather Fresh, but I kind of want to let this sit for a while, let it cool down and dry off, and see if that gumminess goes away from the solvent in the GLD pen, because the leather fluid does tend to get pretty solid pretty quickly. Okay, I waited a few hours. It is not tacky anymore, so now it's ready to do our Leather Fresh treatment. Let me close this thing up. And so Leather Fresh will go on a sponge, and then that's how we get our texture back. So then you just take this and we kind of dab it like this. So I'm gonna turn the camera off because I want to do this correctly. It looks pretty good. You can see the repair. And that's the first coat. So what I did when I kind of dabbed it around, and I just dried it with the heat gun, and it like flashes, goes away. That's pretty darn good. Yeah. Okay, now this section I've taped off, and then I'm just gonna do the leather fresh here. So taped off the stitching, and we'll just kind of blot this, do several coats, and that'll kind of clean up the little edgy parts there, and see how that looks. And do another coat of that. Wow. You know, it's almost worthwhile to just do the Leather Fresh. It wouldn't fill it in, but it would at least re-dye it, because we'll be able to see a little bit of squigglies and some of the really damaged part but this leather fresh is freaking awesome. Let's pull this off. This is 3M precision tape. I'll put it in the description, all the products that I used. Holy crap, man. It looks, I mean, it's a 3-footer now. What I didn't recognize is how the stitching was all beat up, you know, so the stitching, so the leather looks great. It's the stitching that is a little banged up just from all the wear, you know, from getting beaten up by getting in and out of the car so much. I mean, it should look like this, but it's not as clean. But the leather repair, I'll try to get it in a little better lighting here in a minute. But next step is I'm going to put some leather protector on there. So I'm going to put a coat of leather protector, and then we'll follow with a coat of leather shield. This is pretty simple. A little bit of the sauce. So you put leather protector on. More isn't really super helpful. Just put enough on that you're gonna wipe off. Anyway, we're gonna wipe it flat. So again, I don't want to buff it off, but I want to gently, without pressure, wipe the leather protector flat. It won't add any shininess. That's pretty cool, man. I wouldn't call it new, but I would call it pretty darn good. Yeah, I feel like from this angle, when you're laying on the side from here, it doesn't look so great. Just couldn't figure out how to get that to flatten out. Maybe if I had pulled it. But you can't really... You're gonna see it like here. You know, so when the seat is like this, you're gonna see it. Now the seatbelt kind of hangs down. And, yeah, it's okay. Certainly better than when I got it, but I don't know that I'd call that OG spec. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's quite a bit better. I mean, I don't really have much of a choice. But in the right spot, like if this isn't here, like up top there is really, really great. Perfectly acceptable to me. You know, if you're not looking for it, it's a pretty darn good spot repair compared to what it was. But you still get some, it almost looks like you had like, I don't know, you had some beat up skin or something. You know, you have a scar. It looks like a scar that's been kind of improved. Actually, it looks like an open wound that left a little bit of a scar. That's what it looks like. And so you're going to see it from like here when you look into the car, but it's going to be dark. Which, you know, that's not an excuse to me. Well, I'm just going to put it in the car and see what it looks like. All right, it looks great. I'm pumped. I'd tell you if it didn't look good, but certainly the upper part looks where you could see like white you know, up here. Now it looks great. This looks really good. Now again, if I micromanaged, it actually even looks better in person than it's looking through my screen, because you can see the sheen, slight sheen difference. But even the, especially this in here was all gunked up. Just the leather fresh there made a big difference. And again, like I said, the seatbelt, generally, your seatbelt's gonna kind of hang here in front of it most of the time. And that's part of what this and this hanging down is what beat it up. Wow, I'm so pumped. The other thing I'm so pumped about is no more yellow cage. Shoot, maybe I just not put a cage back in it at all. Oh, the car looks like a new car without the cage in it. And I decided not to take the risk of pulling the tint off. I'm probably going to pull the tint off the windshield and maybe have that redone. Wow, I'm pumped. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure to go check out the journal on Renlist. You can follow along. When we start the giveaway, we start the giveaway June 1st. It'll be on obsessedgarage.com. You'll be able to buy all kinds of cool stuff, buy raffle tickets, and I need to add up, so I'll create a spreadsheet to add up what I'm into this. We're also going to do like a 3D Matterport where you'll be able to sort of walk through the car and see all that we did. And well, I guess all that I did. Next up is put the black cage in. Once I get the right piece, take it for alignment, and then I'd order the Dundon exhaust, which should be here in a few weeks. So we'll do the Dundon exhaust, but it's turning into a OG spec vehicle. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.